All right. Welcome, one and all, back to the Pinnacle Studios. We are live today. We will be taking questions on the chat. It is up and running just in case you are listening and have a question. Even if it's not even about what we're talking about, feel free to ask away because, listen, we can multitask. We can do more than one thing at a time. So
I'm doing my laundry right now.
Exactly. And it's crazy because we're not even in the same room, even though we're live in Pinnacle Studio.
All right. Well,
and after that, probably bombed. Let's go ahead and move on. Today we are going to talk about. Actually, you know what? I don't know if anybody went this past weekend. Well, I know some people that went, but if you're listening, there was an IFBB show locally here in Kansas City, which is a bodybuilding show, and show friend Big Keith Williams competed. So if you didn't get a chance to get out there, hopefully we'll see more events coming to town or locally that have fitness and wellness related type activities. But everybody looked pretty good on the pictures. I didn't get a chance to make it out myself, so.
Yeah, it looks like a fun show.
Yeah, it did. It looked like a cool theater, too. So anyways, this week, we're asking you a question. We're asking you out there, are you preventing your own progress? Are you?
Oh, probably.
So, there's so many different ways that somebody could be jinxing themselves, could be preventing themselves from being better. And it's not even so much of... are you looking to be a bodybuilder or a fitness model or physique person, competitor? It's are you trying to lose a few pounds? Are you trying to put on a little bit of lean body mass? Which when we say lean body mass, we mean a little bit of muscle in order to help you reach your goals.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something as small as a few pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure, can be. Yeah. We'll probably direct more of this. Again, the last few episodes have been more kind of maybe for an advanced trainer. Trainee. The first, number or so, 10 or 15 were more of the beginner. So, again, we can kind of venture into both worlds here, but this might pertain more to an advanced gym goer than beginner. But
sure. Well, so, there's probably a couple of different categories. If we wanted to organize this, I don't know if we should or if we can completely stay on task because we've been known to trail off many times. But what are some things, what could be some things that are inhibiting somebody's, and again, more specifically, gaining maybe lean muscle tissue? Well,
that's a real loaded question because there's a lot of different factors that we could address.
Okay.
Again, we don't have any notes here, so maybe we should have jotted some down. But one of the things that we see, and I know we've probably at least hit upon this, maybe we've talked about it in detail a couple of times, I don't know, in the past episode, but is, people tend to, I think, do too much when they go to the gym. There are too much volume, too many sets, and then too frequently do a workout, or frequency of the workout might be too much. So in other words, how many times in a set period of time do you actually go train back? Do you go once a week? Do you go once every other week? Do you go 3 times a week? Those kind of things. And I think that a lot of people, for example, I was talking to somebody the other day, or I heard a story, I can't remember, excuse me, but they were doing like 35 sets for, I think it was biceps, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
In a workout. And their biceps weren't really responding that well, and they wondered why, and they were thinking about, basically the question was, the person wanted to know what should they add to their routine to get them growing again, right? And basically the response was, well, you need to take a lot out.
Well, and that probably seems counterintuitive to some people that maybe think, well, if I want more, I got to do more.
Right. I mean, that works in a lot of avenues in life. The more you put in, the more you get out. But assuming that your training intensity is enough to stimulate a muscle to grow, it doesn't take 35 sets to do that.
Okay.
Either I'd look at muscle building stimulus, as far as stimulus being the weights that you're lifting, the stress you're putting on the muscle. It's kind of like a light switch. It's either turned on or it's turned off.
Sure.
So as soon as you do enough that your muscle is under enough stress, it says, well, we're not really used to that. That's more than we were anticipating. That's really almost more than we can do. Then that's kind of when the light switch is turned on. That's when your body says, okay, we have a reason now for that particular muscle fiber to grow bigger.
Sure.
Well, once you reach that point, going beyond that point by doing set after set after set after set is actually probably hindering your ability to start the recovery process. You have to recover before that muscle can build new. You've got to get back to ground zero. I mean, you're tearing it down, you're damaging it, right?
Right.
During the workout. Once you've accomplished the goal of stimulating the muscle to grow, which doesn't take 35 sets for the case of biceps or any muscle group for that matter.
At least it shouldn't.
It takes one set.
Yeah.
If done right.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It takes one set. Either you reach the point where the light switch is turned on or you don't.
Right. Right. Well, and then at some point in time, if you're training just below that point, then you're just kind of spinning your wheels. You're running you're running your treads out on your tires, if you will. You know.
Right. And you're not getting any.
You're just not getting
anywhere.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a trend, especially on Instagram, which I don't even want to go off on a side topic on that, but on Instagram, where a lot of people are filming themselves do wacky exercises and doing all kinds of weird plyometrics and things like that. Do you find that that those are helpful? Do you find that those are something that could be left to a minimum or done at all, or do you think those are well placed? Well, and I'll give you an example. Like the term functional exercise is used quite a bit for things like, what is that? Like a Turkish get-up, which is where you lay down on the ground and you hold the weight up above your head, and then you stand up with the weight above your head. And to me, that's not functional. When I think functional, I think everyday life. I think we all push something. Getting out of a chair.
Going
upstairs. We pick something up off the ground. We take something off of a shelf. So I'm inclined to think more 1950s, just simple presses and squats when I think functional, not so much these elaborate, weird workouts.
Well, I think that they can serve a point, maybe.
Like for
again, I'd have to really think for a while before I get to find a reason to use them a lot. But I think sometimes there's just information out there that it's just somebody wants to put their own spin and get their own brand out there, and so they come up with these different, this is functional training, these different terms and these different exercises. What I found that again, I've never done a Thanksgiving Day Turkish, whatever. What was that?
Thanksgiving get up.
Thanksgiving. I've never done one. I don't even know what that is, and so it's hard for me to sit here and say it doesn't work.
Right.
A lot of it would be how it's implemented, right? But I think the bottom line is this: the exercises that I think are most effective are basically easy to complete or to perform. I mean, they're not. So in other words, if you're just doing a squat or a bench press or a leg press or an arm curl or something like that, you will become functionally stronger in other movements in everyday life.
Right.
And I think those are more effective at stimulating muscle growth, and basically they're easier to teach for one, I think. But of course, that's the only thing I really work in. So.
Right. So so I guess we touched on the training properly and doing too much. Sorry. And I guess that kind of leads into the kind of the overtraining aspect. What about eating maybe for recovery or eating for muscle growth?
Well, there's a lot. Most people don't eat enough, and the foods that they do eat probably aren't the right ones. Again, if you're trying to build muscle, I tell people, I think the best way is small meals spaced out every 2 or 3 hours, protein and carbs together in each meal, minimal fat. You do need fat, but fat's kind of misunderstood a little bit. Unsaturated fat, I think your body can utilize very well, and you can use quite a bit of it. Mm-hmm. Peanut butter and fat from fish and things like this. I think, though, that most people either they don't do enough or they take it to an extreme. And so, like protein consumption, for example, I used to think that you needed a lot more than maybe you do.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing. When you're eating to build muscle, I think a balanced diet is best. Again, balance between protein, carbohydrates, and fat. You're not eliminating one.
Right.
I even tell people that when they're trying to lose weight, keep it balanced. Don't eliminate. A lot of people do the Atkins and the high fat, no carbohydrate type stuff. But the reality is, like when you're eating protein, for example, I think a moderate amount is fine when you're eating carbohydrates with it, because carbohydrates, for example, are protein sparing. So, if you're getting carbs in your diet, you don't have to eat 400 grams of protein a day, because the carbohydrates are helping to fuel your body, so it's freeing up the protein to build muscle instead of fuel your body or whatever.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? So
yeah.
It's easier on your kidneys. It's easier on your...
Right.
You're healthy versus
Right.
just eating 500 grams of protein a day,
Yeah.
30 grams of carbohydrates a day, and 200 grams of fat.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's that healthy.
Yeah. Well, at least in terms of, I mean, your the way your blood process or your body processes that protein through the kidneys and the liver and things, it could give you some poisonous blood.
Elevated markers on kidney function.
Mm-hmm. The talking about that kind of thing, we have other types of recovery mechanisms, such as you're eating the right foods. We've got that taken care of. So now we're talking about kind of the more of the recovery aspect. How big is recovery? And you touched on it based on the spacing of your workouts, but getting enough sleep or just relaxing in your downtime, how important is that?
Well, you do build muscle when you rest, and specifically when you sleep. I believe there's research out there that says you actually build muscle a lot faster than if you're just resting as far as being awake. So sleeping is important. Getting in a routine sleeping pattern is important. So in other words, if you need 6 or 7 hours a night, you get that every night.
Right.
You don't want to be sporadic if you can, where you get 3 hours one night and 12 the next and this kind of thing. So your body kind of gets in a rhythm.
Well, and didn't science prove that things like hormone levels and like growth hormone levels and things like that are elevated when you sleep?
Yeah, again, I've read studies. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Sure.
It just makes sense. I mean, everybody knows instinctually that when you sleep, you wake
recover.
up recovered.
Yeah, you
I mean,
recover.
that's what the whole point of sleeping is. And so, I would assume that you have different hormone levels and things elevated, and who knows what's going on. But it's all a positive thing as far as building muscle.
Sure.
It can't be a negative.
Yeah.
I did want to touch on the frequency, though, again, real quick before we move on. Because, again, I don't know if we really, if people understand this. What we are saying, essentially, is for most people, training less frequently will lead to more muscle building.
And I think
that's what we're saying. So, like one body part a week instead of, don't work the same body part 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
Work out once a week or once every 10 days.
Right.
That's about right.
And I think that's again, that's kind of something that is hard for people to understand. But and I was going to save this for later, but when people will talk about utilizing pro bodybuilders' workouts, you look at Schwarzenegger. He trained a body part 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday was one, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was another, and he trained AM, PM. So he trained every single body part, 3 times a week. Ronnie Coleman trained every body part. He had a quote-unquote light and a heavy day in which nothing he did was light. Everything he did was extremely heavy. He beat his body up pretty good. So following workouts like that are people setting themselves up for failure? Or are they trying to reach an unattainable goal, or both? Or
well, again, you read the magazines and you look at the articles on the internet, and you see a lot of these guys that are